in color. The continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington, Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington, James Douglas as Stephen Cord.
Stephen Cord has been handled, maneuvered by his grandfather, Martin Peyton, twisted and turned by his grandfather's fiancée, Adrienne Van Leyden. Tonight, Stephen is determined to find out whether or not his growing suspicion is true, that the principal manipulator has been his half-brother, Rodney Harrington.
What do you want?
I want the truth, Rod. You have been playing Martin Peyton's game all along, haven't you? Waiting for him to wreck my marriage. Waiting so you could step in and pick up all the marbles. Mrs. Cord and 10 or 15 million, or is it 20? Without getting your little hands dirty.
You woke me up for this?
All your noble talk about grandfather's marriage, freeing us to live our own lives. What a hypocrite.
I meant that.
You knew all along Adrienne was brought here to foul up Betty and me.
I knew nothing.
All you had to do was wait. And that's just what you've been doing, isn't it? Sitting around waiting for it to fall in your lap in a tidy little package.
Listen, maybe you don't have anything to do tomorrow morning, but I do. Now, will you just catch the light on your way out, please? I've got to know. Will you cut it out? Now, you knew all along, admit it. I knew nothing, Steve. You're lying. Now, listen, I don't want your money. I don't want your wife. I don't even want the bother of fighting with you. You're not going to get her, because I'll never let her go, ever. Now, get that through your thick head. Tell that to your grandfather, too, the next time you see him.
Something else. How much do you want for this wreck? Wreck? You want to get hurt, kid?
Mr. Cord, Eddie Jacks.
Rita's father?
Give that man $2 silver.
Well, what's so urgent, Mr. Jacks?
I've got some information that I think you ought to have.
How much?
Huh?
Am I supposed to make an offer, or has the price been fixed?
Oh, you think I'm selling it.
But of course you're not.
When a fella leaves town the way I did, his reputation lingers on. I guess you've heard about me. No, Mr. Cord, I didn't come here to sell you anything. If you give me a chance, I think we can help each other.
What are we going to have now, the soft sell?
Oh, boy, you must be tough in a courtroom. I've got some information about the background of Adrienne Van Leyden that I'm going to give you gratis. Not because I'm a nice guy, but because I want to help my little girl, Rita.
You know, I'm sure there's a connection between those two ladies that you're prepared to tell me about, but I wish you wouldn't. A lot of work to do, so...
Come on, Mr. Cord. A minute ago, you had me pegged as a slick operator. At least give me credit for doing my homework. Now, if Mr. Peyton carries through with his plans to marry this woman, you and your brothers, your half-brothers, Norman and Rodney, stand to lose a fortune, you know? And Norman's wife, my little girl, my sick, pregnant little girl, will be out in the cold.
Your concern is very touching.
I guess I deserve that. I walked out on Rita when she was a baby, and now, 18, 19 years later, I come back just as broke as I was the day I skipped out.
I hate to interrupt your sad story, Mr. Jacks, but is there a point to it?
The point is that I've got nothing but excuses to give to Rita. Now, she can't get well and have her baby and raise him the way I'd like to have her do. On excuses.
You got me all choked up. But you see, I know Rita. And to an outsider, she looks like she's doing fine. Norman's taking very good care of her.
Oh, yeah, Norman, he's a wonderful kid. I couldn't be happier about him. But that's just what he is, a kid. A hard-nosed, stubborn, mixed-up kid. Now, let me put it this way. I want my little girl to get everything that's coming to her. Now, you and Rodney and Norman are Peyton's grandsons, his natural heirs. But once Adrienne Van Luyden gets her claws into the old man, she'll take him for every cent that he's got.
You're going to stop Peyton from marrying her?
Yeah, that's the idea. That's why I'm here. After you tell the old gent that his Boston society lady used to rent herself out to VIPs and made a very good business out of it, too, he'll dump her so fast she won't know what hit her.
Are you trying to tell me Mrs. Van Luyden got paid for entertaining men?
Well, that's the polite way of putting it. There are other names for what she was.
Get out of here, Jax. You're wasting my time.
Oh, I admit it's hard to believe, but there are all types in that line of work, from the low down to the very fancy. And with her class, she operated only in the top circles.
Do you honestly expect me to swallow that?
Will you give me a chance to finish?
You're finished.
I'm giving it to you straight. I used to work for a New York detective agency, and I spent a lot of time tailing that dame. Once, the wife of one of her clients wanted proof. And she got it. Pictures, the works.
I'm sorry, I'm not interested. Go sell your story to the pulps.
Okay. I get the message. But I think you're making a big mistake, Mr. Cord. When I saw her picture in the Boston paper and read the announcement of her engagement to Mr. Peyton, I didn't believe it either. But then when I saw the lady in person at the inn, I knew it was really her. Only the name had changed and her method of operation. Now, when her radar zeroes in on easy money, she makes it legal. She gets the sucker to marry her.
Close the door on your way out.
It's been very nice knowing you. Oh. Bye-bye.
Mrs. Nolan.
Yes, sir.
Find the form book covering incompetency proceedings.
I've got it, Mr. Cord.
Bring your pad in. I want to dictate a petition.
Bye-bye, honey. Thanks for everything.
Mr. Peyton, I've got a present for you. Compliments of Eddie Jax. Yeah, I did what you told me to do last night and stopped by and had a talk with him on my way home from work.
So, Eddie Jax sent me a bottle of brandy.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, he's kind of an odd sort of a guy.
He's a raconteur.
A what?
He's a storyteller. Someone with a gift for gab.
No,
At least that's Eddie Jack's reputation.
well, actually, he didn't have too much to say.
You must be losing your touch.
Well, I wouldn't say that. He recognized me right away.
Well, he's a con man. Putting names and faces together is his stock in trade.
Yeah, well, I know one person who'll never be able to con. Old Ada Jax.
Oh?
The frost was so thick in that place, you could cut right through it with a knife.
A minor domestic argument.
Minor, huh? About as minor as it was when he left her years ago.
Well, I'm not interested in their domestic squabbles.
Mr. Carson to see you, Mr. Peyton.
Carson? Now, what's he want? All right. Show him in.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Weber, when I open that bottle of brandy, I may allow you to sample it. An appropriate gift for your efforts.
Well, thank you, sir.
Well, Carson?
Mr. Peyton, I'd like to talk with Mrs. Van Luyden.
I thought I made myself quite clear over the phone.
You gave me a brief statement.
That's what I wanted.
Covering the obvious announcements of the wedding, and you gave me a date. but I want more.
Well, what you want and what you get are two different things.
Well, Mr. Peyton, I'm not in the habit of begging for social news.
Then don't?
Weddings bore me.
Good.
But unfortunately, the name of this town is Peyton Place. And the mill that supports this town is named Peyton. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the man who, well, bears this name, when he decides to get married, it's news.
I don't agree.
Is Mrs. Van Leyden in?
Mrs. Van Leyden shares my point of view.
About what, Martin?
Mrs. Van Leyden?
Yes.
Oh, I'm Elliot Carson. I'm the editor of the Clarion.
And I'm Martin Peyton. Along with wars and nuclear devices, I'm a subject of news.
Well, if you gentlemen will excuse me.
Mrs. Van Leyden,
Yes?
I came here to see you.
Little old me?
Yes. You were one time married to a very prominent scientist, and now you're about to marry Mr. Peyton. And I'd like to ask you a few questions. They're very personal questions.
I want you to leave now.
Tell me, how did you meet Dr. Van Leyden?
Why?
Oh, just consider I'm a rude, uncouth newspaper man who likes to ask rude, uncouth questions.
Really, Carson?
No, it's all right, Martin. Actually, I met Dr. Van Leyden while on safari in Africa. I was hunting the famous off-striped zebra, which, as you undoubtedly know, is the zebra with the stripe running the wrong way. I finally spotted one in a clearing. I took dead aim and fired. You can imagine my horror when I realized I'd shot a man. That man turned out to be Dr. Van Leyden, who was wearing a striped shirt. It was awful.
That's very good. You've got a very good sense of humor.
Anything else?
Yes. I'd like to know how you met Dr. Van Leyden.
Oh, I met him at a party.
At a party? Just like that?
Just like that.
What kind of a party?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it was some sort of, charity affair.
I see. How would you sum up your relationship with the doctor? Would you say supportive, hardworking man? Obviously, he was a genius.
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, as you said, he was a genius. And, well, my part, of course, would be described as supportive like any other wife. I gave him affection and companionship, understanding.
Stop it, Adrienne. Carson, this is my house. Get out.
What's the matter, Martin? I was handling the situation.
No, you weren't. He's a very shrewd man. He's onto something.
Oh, he's just a small-town newspaper man with space to fill.
I know this is going to hurt you, Adrienne, but you're no match for him. He's too direct for you. Stay away from him.